some exciting day it is today for the APSA Cup games that are being played. Those are 2 games that are being played at Ngoloma Stadium, and a lot of expectations from a lot of people, as we saw yesterday when they had a press briefing, and we'll go more or much into that. I'm your host Amos, aka Amore, and this is Off the Pitch, a show that comes your way on Camnet TV every Saturday at 9:30 hours, and I'm not alone on set, and I would be glad to announce that Uncle Rapson is back from well, Augustine said he was still in hiding even if Ghana is winning. Uncle Rapson.
It's always a pleasure, and a very, very good morning to our dear viewers and followers of our program. We appreciate your viewership, and we take nothing for granted, but we endeavor to give you nothing but the best of what we know, especially that it's an APSA weekend.
Augustine.
Thank you very much, Amos. We return all the glory and honor to the Most High God. I think it's always a pleasure to be on set. I'm sure Richard Miller is very happy to see Mr. Rapson in the studio. And to the viewers out there, 8 of the best teams in Zambia lock horns in the APSA Cup. One giant from Kitwe. The only giant that plays the only giant from the only giant from Kitwe is playing this afternoon against Mighty Flair Wanderers. That speaks volumes.
Well,
does it even need the response?
I don't deserve to comment. I will leave it at this point. I will leave it the way it is.
I think
remember, Red Arrows is facing FC Muza tomorrow.
No problem. Richard Muir's team is facing Forest Rangers this afternoon.
Richard Muir is a huge problem.
We are the big boys will be dining together at Ngoloma Stadium Saturday and Sunday. Then the rest are watching at home.
I understand, Amos. I understand where it's coming from, and it's a very, very big disappointment that one of the biggest clubs in...
Which biggest club?
No, I mean Red Arrows. No, I mean Red Arrows.
Anyway, we'll go much into that as we just take a very short break, and we'll be right back to take a look at the games that are being played today. That's in the APSA games.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
So there you have it. We just went on a very short break, but as we were discussing earlier, one of the big teams that Augustine was saying, to say the big teams is representing. But then we'll just take a quick look in terms of the provision squad that was selected by our coach, Avram Grant. And maybe just before I give out the provision squad, Augustine, are there any expected names that are not here that you felt like were supposed to be here? And are there names that shocked you on this list?
I think one big name from Kitwe, Frederick Mulambia, he should be part of this provisional squad. I think it was a shocker to me when I saw the team and I realized he's not part of the team. And one surprising addition was probably Charles Kalumba. Charles Kalumba doesn't play for Red Arrows. He hasn't seen any action in the last 6 to 7 weeks. I think the last game we watched him we together with Uncle Rapson at Hero Stadium when Red Arrows played NAPSA Stars, and that was
played when you lost.
When Red Arrows lost to NAPSA Stars.
Yes.
That was at the start of the second round. So I think to me it's a shocker to see how Charles Kalumba has managed to be in the squad.
Well, for me, I think we haven't changed the way we are calling players to the national team. If you ask me, because for Mwenyachiwe, I would understand. The last few games has been very outstanding for Zesco United, but very few games. When you consider the longest span where we want to call the best players,
exactly,
I would leave him out, completely leave him out. Frederick Mulambia from Power Dynamos, that boy has been a marvel to watch this season. He's been very consistent with his performances. To look at a team which was being announced by Avram Grant, I'm looking at the squad, I'm like, so we are still in the ancient days where you're using history to select players instead of their current form. I was very, very disappointed to have Frederick not appearing on the list. The other big name that I was probably expecting and is not there is Cletus Chama for me, if you ask me. Cletus has been very outstanding for Simba in Tanzania, and to get to a stage where the coach was in Tanzania, he watches 1 game, 2 games. Out of the many games that Cletus has contributed very positively to his team,
Simba,
the coach goes and watches 1 game and decides not to call the player. That player has been very, very consistent, if you ask me, and he's one of the biggest ball distributors in Tanzania. Of course, I hear Kennedy Msonda will be drafted in the squad, but on the final list, I don't think Kennedy is there if you check, but I think he's making a provision to make adjustments. But I think when you look at the period that we have to prepare, March 23rd is probably 2 weeks from now, and we can't afford to be making such experiments. In the goalkeeping department, I'm glad to see Alan Chiwe back in that team. He's been very outstanding for Forest Rangers, and to see him bounce back to being called to the team, I think for me speaks volumes for his performance, and it's an encouragement to the other goalkeepers and other players that chances are always there.
And maybe let's just go through so that maybe we should make people understand what we're discussing. So this is a local provision squad that was summoned, and goalkeepers we've got Mwenya Chiwe, Zesco United, Lawrence Mulenga, Power Dynamos, Alan Chiwe, Forest Rangers, Charles Kalumba, Red Arrows, and defenders we've got Benedict Chepeshi, Red Arrows, Dominic Chanda, Kilian Kanguluma, both Kawe Warriors, Shemi Mayembe, John Chishimba, Zesco United, Mwilapiri, Zanako, Ted Kumalo, Gift Mpande, both Atletico Lusaka, Luka Banda, Napsa Stars, Aaron Katere, Power Dynamos. In the midfield department, we've got Kelvin Kapumbu, Kelvin Kampamba, both Zesco United, Gideon Sichone, Green Buffaloes, Andrew Mbande Ngwazi, Oliver Lumbia Ngana, Joshua Mtale, Power Dynamos, Charles Zulu, Abraham Siangombo, both Zanako, Augustine Mulenga, Napsa Stars. Strikers, we've got Andrew Piri, Musa, Joseph Piri, Red Arrows, Derek Wulaya, Green Eagles FC, and Lazarus Kambole, Zesco United.
Yeah, Lazarus Kambole, biggest call-up.
Biggest call-up.
Deserves it.
I think during the short time that he's been as Zesco United, I think you've seen the impact that he's had on the team. And again, when you look closely in that squad, you do realize that Forest Rangers' best midfielder, Chitoshi Chinga, is not part of the team. I feel Chitoshi Chinga has been one of the most outstanding holding midfielders in the Super League, and it's good to see the Gift Mpande of Lusaka Atletico being called up to the senior team, but probably these under-20 boys, they could have been given a rest. Rather than after that disaster we saw in Egypt, they could have been given a rest away from this senior national team. Again, another one is Andrew Mpande from Kwazi. He's been brilliant. I think he's one of those players who was linked with a move to Zesco United. It didn't materialize, but it's good to see him part of this squad. And my question is, why go for Augustine Mulenga and leave Msonda Kapembwa out of the team? Because Msonda Kapembwa is Napsa Stars' leading scorer, and he's been in great form in the second half of the season. What more should Msonda Kapembwa do for him to get into this national team? I think even the last time around, they got Jimmy Mukea, who had 1 goal for Napsa Stars and left Msonda Kapembwa. I think,
and the guy that time wasn't even
exactly. So I think it's very much surprising to see how these things are done. You look at good call-ups. Andrew Piri, he's been very, very instrumental for Musa. He's been brilliant this season. It's good to see him being called up for the... Yeah, he's playing Red Arrows tomorrow, and he will give them problems. I think Chisimbero is having sleepless nights. Eh?
He didn't even show up for the press briefing yesterday. He was busy planning for the game.
Busy planning. I think so. When you look at the boys that have been doing it, probably I would want to put one Ghana name in there, probably Harrison Chisala. I think he's been good in the second half of the season. He's been outstanding, probably better than some of the names in there.
Not some of them. In fact, you see, 2 names that were mentioned that I've been trying to belabor to talk about. But I said, if I talk about them, people who understand me and my life around me would have said I'm being biased. Harrison Chisala, for example, I'm very glad that Augustine has made mention of him. The guy has been very outstanding for Ghana Football Club. From the time that he was given that armband, he's been showing leadership off and on the pitch. Look at Msonda Kapembwa. The guy has been working very, very hard. He started this season probably not too strong. There are many games that he missed. The first 3, 4, 5 games of the season, he wasn't making the starting 11. He continued working hard. He started appearing in the first 11. There he is now. He's in the top. He's the top scorer for Napsa Stars. And
yes.
To get to a stage where you probably, Avram Grant will give an excuse that probably he went for experience rather than current form in picking Augustine ahead of Musonda Kapembo.
But I remember Ngorapson, you once raised the point to say Kapembo's form this year deserves a national team call-up. And I'm glad today Augustine has brought it up again to say why picking someone. And then wasn't he just on injury, Augustine Mulenga?
Yes, I think he missed, is it the last 2 games for Napsa Stars due to injury. So I think the selectors, I think we need to try and do more in terms of their selection. And look at probably Musonda Kapembo. He's been enjoying very, very good form for Napsa Stars. He's their leading scorer. He's their talisman. You would love to see him close to this national team. And Forest Rangers fans will be fuming, where is our top scorer? you do realize
why Musiandi Boyerim team?
So look at that. Luambo Muera has scored about 11 goals this season. He's the one who is behind Andy Boyedi in terms of the goals. So you would have loved to see him close to that squad. Probably might be injured or something, but Luambo Muera has been brilliant. It doesn't necessarily mean this provision squad will make it into the actual qualifiers, but it gives the players confidence. If you're just in and around the national team, you are part of
your
that.
Hard work should pay off.
Yeah, you are part of that provision. You know that you are doing the right things. It will encourage you to even do more. I think that's what I expected from Avram Grant, but at least probably 70% of the team
I'll take you back. I'll take you back to the yesteryears of football where we had one. I know you guys were very young. Pochela. We had Pochela at Mufuri Wanderers. That is one player who, when you are watching a game, you will probably see very little of him. His footwork, his head wasn't up to speed. But every time Mighty Mfreya Wanderers scores, when you check, it's Pochela. What happened to George Mungwa? That time we had George Mungwa as national team coach. George Mungwa by default invited Pochela to the national team because Pochela was a goal poacher. You need somebody who's notching in those goals. Whether they are playing good football or not good football, let's respect their positioning on the pitch. What makes a player score goals is the positioning in front of goal and his finishing. This boy from I don't understand why you should miss such a player. When you look at the top scorers chart, the first one probably is a foreigner, the second one is Zambian. Why skip all that and give chance to players? Probably the ones that are going to make the squad are probably people whose names and surnames sound better on paper. But when you look at the actual performance on the pitch, it's a very, very different story.
And was this time Ngorapson to have a selection of tryouts? I think because that's an actual point. You can't leave someone who is a top scorer, who is just below, or maybe who is second on the top scorer's chart.
They'll give you technical reasons.
Unless he's not Zambian.
They'll give you technical reasons. They'll give you technical reasons. There's so many stories that go around and they move around these discussions. When you ask such questions, the next thing they'll tell you, no, we are looking at the player's abilities. They'll give you a jargon that you are going to be comfortable with, that the reason why he's been left out is because of their technical requirements with regards to how they are focusing on a game against Lesotho.
Yeah.
But clearly, that shouldn't be the issue because a player must be molded in such a way that even if the environment changes, they should be able to adapt.
And exactly, if you look at last time around when we had this kind of scenario, we saw about 7 Red Arrows players going to the national team because at that time their form was very, very good and they were rewarded for that. Yusuf Saddam was one of them, Alan Kapira, Prosper Chiria, Benedict Chepeshi, Ricky Banda. So I think at least it felt like these guys are being rewarded for what they were doing and during the season and after they won the league title. But now when Forest Rangers look at what they have been doing this season, they look at their best players that have not been selected, there will be those questions. Probably, what are we doing wrong? You look at probably FC Muza, probably could have had 3 or 4 in the team because they are doing very well. So you pick teams that are performing very well because they are coming from a team which has got the winning mentality, the feel good factor. You try and translate that into the senior national soccer team. Power Dynamos, who will be looking at, probably would have had 4 or 5. I think Owen Tembo is one of the best holding midfielders in the land at the moment. he could have been part of this this team. But all in all, it's just a provincial squad. He wants to try and look at the local players that he will try and add to the Chipolopolo boys proper that will try and tackle Lesotho.
And maybe just a quick one. We know this is just a local provision squad, and we are looking at some who are playing abroad. These are who we call international players. Any names, Angorapson, that you expect now to be added to this team on the final list based on performance?
No. I don't think it will even be based on performance. When you look at it won't be really, because for me, the informed striker that we have at the moment is Fashion Sakala. The guy, after the departure of the coach at Rangers, we saw him struggle to get into the starting 11. He was making the bench consistently. The coach believed in him, gave him 1 or 2 games. The guy has made a mark. And now, he's a top-notch striker that everybody else is talking about in Scotland now. And it won't be surprising to see him back. For me, Patson Daka, biggest revelation. He needs to be part of the squad and he needs to be in the starting 11. What is that going to do? It's a very, very psychological thing you need to do on a player. When a player has been going through a bad patch at his club, let him come to the national team, let him feel respected, let him feel that we want him and we still respect him the same way we respected him when he was notching those goals at under 20 level. And it won't be surprising to see Lamek Banda making the squad as well.
Yeah,
he's been very brilliant, if you ask me, and it will always be very nice to see such players. One of the other players that I feel should have been given an attempt is Albert Kangwanda from Red Arrows. From the time the guy came back and started playing for Red Arrows back home here, I think for me, kudos to Chisimbewe for giving him a second chance to resuscitate his career. He's been very, very fantastic for Red Arrows.
And if I may, just to add on to what Angorapson has said, we're looking at our biggest problem currently is the goalkeeping department. A lot of our goalkeepers are not seeing game time. Probably the best that we think. Tosta Zavata is now second choice at Sekekune United. That's a problem going into such a crucial encounter. And probably is going to be the one that will come and he will be between the posts in the game against Lesotho.
No.
I do not see any other goalkeeper who is going to start ahead of Tosta Zavata. Realistically, we cannot throw young Ronis Mulenga in this big encounter because
it's not a big encounter. When did Lesotho become big?
We have been qualified for the past.
We are the ones who are a problem. But it's not a big encounter.
So, if you look at Rollins Mulenga, he's a very, very good ball distributor. Aerial balls probably not very much convincing. He's a short stopper. He does have a mistake in him. But are you going to try and throw him in this big encounter, which has got a lot of responsibilities? He's the most informed goalkeeper, but I don't think so. We've got Aime Amabika. He's been cleared now. Probably he will be part of the team and he's coming to play alongside Franklin Musonda at the heart of defense. Dominic Chanda, has it been very, very convincing? I think the first half was poor.
Augustine, before you break, are you very convinced with Mabika's performance?
Yeah, I think he's a very, very decent defender. He
in the right
guides
spot?
His territory very, very well. For you to be playing for Inter Miami, I think it's not a fluke. That guy starts for Inter Miami. Gary Villeneuve coaches him. I think there should be something good about him, and I believe so. Based on Sakala, he's seen some game time in Croatia. In Croatia, is it? Yeah, Czech Republic. Sorry, he will be probably in the team. There's that boy from Atletico. Is it Mana Chihuahua? There's that boy from Atalanta in Italy. He will be drafted into this squad, we believe, because Abraham Grant went on a tour to Europe to try and look at these players. Luambo Msonda is doing very, very well for his team. Fashion Sakala, Lamek Banda, Clins Kangwa. You have got a lot of varieties. Emmanuel Banda has moved to Croatia and is getting game time. But our biggest problem now is that this is the first time that we are going to step out there in a crucial encounter without our captain in Enoch Mwepu. How do we handle that? I think what Abraham Grants need to do is to try and identify a leader, because you do remember we had these problems before Enoch Mwepu was appointed captain. He need to identify a leader in his group to try and lead this side going forward, because we cannot afford to miss on another AFCON edition. Like Angorapson, I said, it used to be a small game, but this is a crucial game for Zambia. Two crucial games.
Angorapson, you gave some doubts on Aime, and you saw how much the push was. Fast pushing, the Ministry of Sports pushing, just to get his identity and his passport, and it was given.
Well, I will not say much, but practically speaking, if time will vindicate me. I don't see him very good with his feet. He's good with aerial balls. He's got a good height. I've watched him 2-3 times, and I'm not very convinced. But he's Zambian. He deserves a collar, and we'll be there. And I think one of the biggest fans that I'll probably make an appointment with is one Jamila who's watching us right now, and probably we'll go and watch that game together in Dola, where Zambia is going to host Lesotho, and it will be very nice to see whether the young man Aime is going to make the squad. And just probably after that game, we'll come back and do a recap of what we are talking about.
It's tough times for Zambia, and we need to try and get it right at this particular time. Yes, and Corruption has got his own opinion with Aime Mbabika. I believe he's just not the quickest, but he's very, very intelligent. His position you would see is very, very smart in how he handles things. Probably might not be the best defender, but at least for now he would come and do the job for us.
Over him.
I think if you look at Tandy Mwape, schoolboy mistake against Comoros, we get punished on this big stage, because it's not every time that you come from behind and get back. Abraham Grant will need to try and stamp his authority in these 2 games. What identity are we going to play as a country? Where are we going to be an attack-minded team? Are we going to be a team that plays only counter-attack? Are we going to be defensively solid? Because defensively, that's our weakest link. We need to find the right balance between attack and defense. And I believe a coach like Abraham Grant, with the vast experience, even if he's going to work with the boys just for a short while, he will get the job right.
Anyway, let's just take a look at this quick comment that has been posted here on Facebook. Is it that some players belong to the national team? It doesn't make sense to have a player who is not playing for his club but is picked for the national team. What criteria did the coach use to pick? And this is a comment that is coming from Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that's the question I had on Charles Kalumba. I think nothing against Charles. He's a very, very good goalkeeper, but currently Ken Mumba is playing ahead of him. So if you feel you need the
Ken
goalkeeper,
is never making mistakes.
Yeah, if you feel you need a goalkeeper from Red Arrows, why not take Ken Mumba? I think one of the problems the selectors have currently is that there are a few Zambian goalkeepers that are doing very well in the league. I think a lot of them, we watch them week in, week out, making schoolboy errors that lead to teams dropping points. But I think Charles Karumba, probably he's been picked because he's been around the setup. He was part of the team which won the COSAFA, and he was the one who was in goal. Probably the team that got eliminated against Mozambique was the one who was in goal. Probably he's been picked because he's been around the setup, and Abraham Grant doesn't want to try and things that people that he doesn't know have been at this big stage.
For now, we'll just go on a short break, and as we come back and take a look at the APSA games that are being played today. So that was just the summary in terms of the provision squad. That's the local provision squad that was called, and we can go the whole way and the whole day just talking about it. But for now, let's just take a very short break as we come back and allow calls to come in as well.
What do you know about Zambia? Usivapo chani pali Zambia. Mwaishivapo enshi pali Zambia. Let your knowledge about this amazing country earn you up to 5,000 kwacha daily and so many more consolation prizes on the Smart Quiz. For you to be part of this empowering show, all you have to do is subscribe daily for you to answer simple questions about Zambia. Questions in sports, tourism, civic education, and so much more. To participate, all you have to do is dial *265*13990*5#. You can also get the daily questions if you follow and like our Facebook page. Join me, Constance, on the Smart Quiz. Camnet TV, channel 274 on DSTV, 98 on GoTV, and channel 106 on Topstar.
Akola kansheko alakula chancha mukolo kula chekerera ucho mwana nanyi nanga nyaba butuka uwinge wo munanga tikasambe nani ingata mwishibe tekeni twipushe bana fia sasa ushe umwana nanyina ingana babutuka uwinge wo munanga tikasambe nani mure ikushya ina shenya bo mwikere nabo.
we've got some exciting games that are being played today. That's the APSA. But before we take a look at those games, maybe just a quick one. I think we've seen how social media has gone a bit rampant in terms of the pricing of the tickets, where people feel like it's been just put at a high rate. 50 kwacha. Some are complaining. Some are complaining to say no, 50 kwacha.
TV is for free.
No,
Augustine has got a say in it.
You can go to the nearest point where you can watch a free TV. Guys, to be honest, we need to promote the sport.
Yes.
This is the only cup that we have in Zambia. A cup that we can only talk about in Zambia. There is no other sponsor that has thrown in this kind of money that APSA has. And for me, 16 years of being consistent in sponsoring the cup, big up to you, APSA. And we take nothing for granted. And to get into a stadium to watch a top-class game for 50 kwacha, and we are still complaining. We need to get away from that, guys. Let's be honest. One, we are looking at the capacity of the stadium. We need to minimize on the number of fans that are going there because of the capacity. How do we do that? Increase the stake so that those that can't afford the 50, they should stay back. I'm not saying, don't crucify me, please, if you can. I am just saying, Nkoloma Stadium is not a very big stadium. Had we taken the games to Heroes, I would have probably been an advocate of a 20 kwacha all around.
Let's just take this call. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and where you're calling us from, sir?
This is Peruma. I'm calling from Chibombo.
Oh, okay. You can go ahead with your contribution.
Yes. I just walked in the living room.
Okay.
And I found this program that's at the Koima. And the gentleman who was submitting, I think it's the guy in the gentleman, sorry, in the red and
Augustine.
Augustine, yes. I must confess that this disappointed with the submission. Over the goalkeeper Camnet. That. You know, the mentality that is trying to push in is the mentality of people playing games. You know, it's not about a setup of anything. This is about performance. If a player is not performing, whether he has been in the setup, at that juncture, he should be left out and left. Someone who is actually being fine. That's those lessons. We have a good number of goalkeepers. I think week in, week out, I watch in the Zambia league. We have a good number of goalkeepers who can actually do fine. But thinking that young man, I'm not against him. Those are preparations to actually use our qualifications. There is no one who can bring in somebody for the sake of having been in the setup. No, football is a performance game. That is my submission.
And before you go, sir, it's good you said that you joined the show halfway through. I think that was my question. I was asking why have they picked Charles Kalumba ahead of Ken Mumba, who starts at Red Arrows. That was my point, because I was also questioning why Charles Kalumba has been picked ahead of Ken Mumba, who is playing regularly for Red Arrows. I wasn't actually saying Charles Kalumba should be part of the squad.
Thank you very much for coming.
I think just a quick clarification. Let me come to your rescue. I think our caller from Chibombo, I'm glad that he joined the show in the middle of the show. But I think what Augustine was talking about, he was also expressing the same shock that the caller is saying, to say, how do players who don't even play for their clubs are finding themselves at the national team? One example was Ken.
Yeah.
Ken Mumba is starting all the games ahead of Charles Kalumba. Why is Charles Kalumba being called to the national team? So the caller's observation are well respected, perfect and on point. But I think he must have joined the show a bit late, because Augustine had asked that question earlier and was actually talking about the same issue why Charles Karumba has been summoned to the national team ahead of somebody who plays every minute of the game at Red Arrows.
I think the caller joined when I was trying to explain probably the thinking of the coach of why he may have selected Charles Karumba.
Yeah, no, it's understood.
It's understood, Mr. I forgot the name from Chiwombo. Yeah, it's understood.
But then let's just go through now. Let's go ahead with the games that are being played today. And the first game, it's at 13 hours, and this is
12:30. Please correct that.
It's at 12:30. The first game is at 12:30. They've changed the time, sorry, apologies for that. We've got Green Buffaloes versus Forest Rangers, and then thereafter we will have Power Dynamos versus Mighty Mufulira Wanderers. These are the games that are there today. So maybe before we take a look at the games that are being played, that will be played tomorrow, we can just maybe have a quick run on this game. First, let's start with the Green Buffaloes versus Forest Rangers game.
The Nyanta boys.
Nyanta.
I
think Green Buffaloes versus Forest, it's a game of teams that Forest Rangers, they have hit a brick wall. Their performance hasn't been very great in recent weeks, and then they're facing a Green Buffalo side which has played 8 games and beaten on the run, on the spin. I think it's going to be an interesting encounter. The last time they met at Imboila Stadium, it ended in a 1-1 draw, and at that point, we've got a call on the line.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, this is the Mujuta on the line.
Yes, Mr. Mujuta.
Okay, you can go ahead with your contribution, Mr. Mujuta.
Yes, my own observation with the selection of the national team is the coach in Zambia. He doesn't have much power in terms of selecting coaches, because we are selecting of players. Because imagine Karumba was the second choice goalkeeper, he has been beat. Talk of shaping mind, what is he doing in that team? There are players like Justin Shonga. You can't compare Mulaya and Justin Shonga. Shonga has been performing very well. So we don't know how the selection of players in Zambia is done. The only problem is our fans and the people who are in charge of football. They have become urgent. They pick players to the national team so that they market them, so that they get something. That's the only thing that has started killing our game.
Something. Thank you very much, sir.
I think he's got a good point there.
And then
because Derek Ulaya has been poor.
Extremely, not just poor, extremely poor.
And I think it brings us back now to saying, do we have one and the same scouters all the time? We're just changing coaches, but the scouters are just the same.
I think what the association and the selectors should have in mind is that football has changed. It's no longer the same like it was 40 or 30 years ago, when probably not a lot of people had enough information about the players. This time around, it's very, very different. People have got a lot of information, and they do watch the league, and they do know who is playing better and who is not. This is the reason why we've got callers that are not happy with the selection, because they do watch Zambian league, and they do see these players week in, week out, failing to perform, and then they are being handed call-ups. I think it's disappointing.
Let's get back.
Back to the GBFC game.
Yeah, GBFC Forest Rangers.
My favorite player, Gordon
Mashat. I think he's been carrying GBFC on his shoulders. The boy has been very, very good, and you see why you also by selecting him for the under-23. John Kosam is another one who is going to be very, very instrumental, because those midfield battles will be very, very key in this afternoon, because Forest Rangers have got good players like Mande Walia and Chitoshi Chinga, who will try and dominate the central areas. GBFC likewise. Finon Sitonya, we've seen him slowly but surely getting back in that GBFC starting lineup to try and offer protection to their back line alongside Jack Chirwa, to allow John Kosam to try and get into those little pockets to try and put pressure on opposition and create for GBFC. We've got a call on the line. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, this is Mr. Nyewenda from Nora.
Oh, hi Mr. Nyewenda, how are you?
Fine. Now, I want to know who is the coach. Okay, I know the coach is an expert,
yes.
But who is the assistant coach?
It remains Moses Chone.
Moses Chone remains, for now, he remains the assistant coach, and I believe Abraham Grant Moses Chone remains the assistant coach for Abraham Grant.
Until further changes.
Moses Sichone.
Yes.
Yes, Moses Sichone remains the coach for now. The assistant coach for now.
Yeah. The assistant coach.
Yes, Moses Sichone.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Moses Sichone.
Tell him when he drops off the call.
We can't hear you.
No, we'll explain once maybe the...
Just add your contribution. After you are done with the contribution, we'll be able to respond to your questions, sir.
I can't get you. There's a lot of work.
Sincere apologies for that. Probably it's a technical issue with lines and networks. But to get to your answer, I think the assistant coach for now, the one who's assisting Avram Grant, remains Moses Sichone until further adjustments to the technical bench are made. For now, it remains Avram Grant at the helm, being assisted by Moses Sichone.
I hope I got that.
No, I'm sure he's gotten that. But back to the games, Augustine.
Well, Forest Rangers for me, this will be a very, very defining game. Ian Bakala's boys have been going through a very, very terrible phase. This is the time to resurrect, the time to wake up from that slumber they've been in. When you look at their performance against Green Buffaloes, it's been like this season. I think their fixture is done. Home and away, it ended in stalemates. Both games were stalemates. And now the superiority between the two clubs is being tested at the quarterfinal stage in the Absa Cup. And this afternoon's encounter probably will define who is more superior than the other. And if you ask me, GBFC has been very, very consistent. Gordon Mashata, the young lad, has been playing football for fun. He's been dribbling, he's been scoring. He caused an upset when they visited the big team in Kitwe, and I was very upset. But this is one player that I think deserves all the accolades at this point because of his current form. And GBFC, for me, has an advantage.
I think, they look clear favourites, GBFC. With the return of Martin Jove in the team, I think he was the second top scorer behind Friday Sam last season. He had a terrible injury. He was out for 10 months. He made the return against Raiders in the 1-1 draw. Probably he's fresh than most of the players. He can be the guy that takes GBFC to the semi-finals, but it will be very, very difficult. Forest Rangers are not coming here without giving a fight. This game will be decided on penalties.
And go ahead.
Advantage GBFC. I don't think we'll be able to go into penalties in this afternoon's encounter at 12:30. I know Forest Rangers is not going to travel all that distance, because when you look at the lucrative price on offer by Absa, clearly, even if you've got sleeping giants in the team, they have to wake up on the day and perform. Including the players who've been laid down at Forest Rangers this season. When you just look at the amount of money that is at stake.
And what it can do to the club.
To the club. I'm sure even the EXCO members at these two clubs, at these 8 clubs that are playing this weekend, have emphasized on, because the prize money being offered by
the bonus becomes good.
way, way, way bigger than what the Premier League title holds.
Yes. And the second game, Power Dynamos, the log leaders and corruption versus mighty Mufulira Wanderers.
Mufulira Wanderers for me has been very, very outstanding, very, very consistent. They missed the promotion into the Premier League last season by a very, very small margin, a very, very small whisker. The consistency in the performance is what gives me the comfort into this coming into this afternoon's game. Last season they missed it. This season they are in poor position to get that automatic promotion into the Super League. They are probably trailing behind the Trident by about 5 points. And when you look at their legendary history into cup games, I am glad to confirm that Mufulira Wanderers is a team that I played for at some point. And,
you are one of the legend history.
Yeah, it's always nice, and I'll be very happy to give them that support. That's 12th player on the pitch today in the stadium. I'll be one of them that are going to be giving that back up to them. I know Power Dynamos will have a superior advantage. We've seen an info move, Andy Boyle there, and I like the way Luka Chamanga responded to the questions that we were posing at him at a press.
And clever answering, huh?
Pretty much, yeah. They were giving each other a lot of respect, and you could tell that this respect is probably a plastic respect, kind of. And getting into this afternoon's game, I don't expect Mighty Mufulira Wanderers. They've got a very, very good striker in the team, and I don't expect them to just come and watch. They are in that position, in that poor position to qualify to the Super League, by virtue of consistency and top-class performances that we have seen. Last weekend, I think they went and played a top-of-the-table clash against Trident, it was a stalemate, showing you that consistency and hard work is actually yielding a lot of results for the mighty Mfuria Wanderers side. And getting into this afternoon's game, playing the league leaders in the Super League, well, interesting. And I know Mwenyach Pepo underplayed his team's performance in yesterday's presser, where he was talking about him being a miracle. They actually don't know why they are number one in the Super League. And I could tell that he's just trying to give, those are serious mind games. He's just trying to give space and chance to Mfuria Wanderers to be a little bit comfortable, so that Andy Boyele strikes them. Luka Chamanga will probably provide that defensive arrangement. You've got Kennedy. I think for me, Mulambia for me will be a game changer in this afternoon's encounter. And if mighty Mfuria Wanderers are really focusing on how to stop this big Power Dynamos big run in the Super League, I think they need to mind how Frederick Mulambia plays around them in that central part of the midfield.
Probably they will have problems with another Mulambia, Jackson Mulambia, because he flanks the left side of Power Dynamo's defense, and he's been giving teams a lot of problems. He's very, very intelligent, smart with his movement. Mighty Mfuria Wanderers, I think they will be coming into this game as probably underdogs, and Power Dynamos will go into this game as strong favorites. Mighty Mfuria Wanderers, they do have players that have played at this high level, like Bernard Mapiri, the captain of the side, Martin Kaonga, Evans Musonda, Evans Chisenga. They've been part of teams that have played in the Super League, and they've got an experienced coach who won the league with Red Arrows in 2004 in Harrison Tembo. He was assistant to Matthews Piri, assisted by Charles Kafula. So I think it has got a lot of ingredients, and I hope it will produce a very, very good meal, because you look at Power Dynamos, they will have full control of the game probably. They will try and dominate the ball. Mighty Mfuria Wanderers will try and sit back, be very, very compact, and try to hit Power Dynamos on the counter. The last 3 meetings, I believe Mighty Mfuria Wanderers won 2, so they will be going into this one with a lot of confidence against Power Dynamos, the log leaders. Power Dynamos would love to do a double, but it's going to be an interesting encounter. Probably Power Dynamos win it by 2-1.
Mighty Mfuria Wanderers, and the Chunguro is coming at exactly 16:45. Anyway, I wish them all the best. That's a club that is very close to my heart, and it's a tough one this afternoon. Advantage Power Dynamos, if you ask me. I wish Mighty Mfuria Wanderers all the best as they face this Power team. But I think when you look at how Mwenyach Pepo has assembled his team.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
My name is David Sigenta, calling from Wansha.
Matamato. How is Ron United, sir?
Hello.
Hello, we are able to hear you, sir. You can go ahead with your contribution.
Yes. First and foremost, I would like to praise the panel for the nice discussion that they are having.
Thank you.
And then one, I should caution, especially my brother in a examination of him, Jersey. Mfuria Wanderers are no longer mighty. Okay?
Yeah, noted, sir.
I've got a view, my view that Musa will go a lot of basket. Maybe the cancer. So, I saw the wire. My fear, if they are going to play Musa at the later stage, maybe it will be a very interesting cancer. Enjoy your play and go there.
Thank you very much.
Well, the caller,
Power Dynamos.
this caller clearly is Power Dynamos fan, and for me to talk about Mfuria Wanderers, we'll talk after the game, sir. And it will be good that you should even mark your calendar and get hold of us next weekend as we revise the results of this afternoon's encounter.
We do miss Rwansha. Probably hope Mighty Mfuria Wanderers, also United bounce into the National League so that we can be going to
and by the way, our dear caller, even if you beat Mighty this afternoon, you probably have a very, very serious encounter, because I know some team from Charleston is dropping points tomorrow, and the semi-final would be very nice to see Power Dynamos facing Musa, and that will be the end of Power Dynamos.
Angola has already wrote the ball for tomorrow's game. Sunday, we've got Green Eagles who will be facing Trident FC and Red Arrows versus FC Musa. Just a quick one on this one, gents.
I think Trident versus Green Eagles, it's one of those games in these cup ties that I feel are very, very balanced. Trident have got a lot of experienced players. They have got someone who has got a point to prove at Green Eagles, Anos Tembo. I think he does want to get one over his former employers. They've got Justin Zulu in their ranks, they've got Lingoma, they've got Potfa Zulu, and they've got a former Ghana defender, John Mangeni, who will be captaining them this afternoon. I think tomorrow, sorry. So you do look at this Trident side. I think they wouldn't
ageless Gravenstein.
So they do have some experience in their house that can hit Green Eagles tomorrow if Green Eagles are not going to be very, very alert. If you look at Green Eagles in the league, before last weekend's game, they had conceded 27 goals and scored 27. That's unlike Green Eagles. Green Eagles always keep their defense very, very watertight. They are very, very solid at the back. They do not give teams a lot of opportunities, but this time around they're trying to play a different brand of football. Under Alex Namazawa, they're more expansive. They try to commit a lot of men forward, and they haven't found the right balance yet. And coming up against Trident, league leaders, they've got that feel good factor in there. Probably this is one of the games that will produce the shockers in this quarterfinals.
A certain team, as you call it, from Charleston versus FC Musa.
Well, it will be a very, very tough encounter. It's a case of parents versus children. Red Arrows is a club that has full of it's full of experienced players, very, very full of experienced players. If you ask me, we've got the Chamangas, we've got Saddam Yusuf, who's been very, very instrumental in midfield for Red Arrows this season. We have Benedict Chepeshi. For me, what has been worrying about the Red Arrows setup is how they concede goals towards the end of each game. The last game, I will not take you very far back. The last game against Nchanga Rangers. Yes. How can you be leading by 2 goals? You are leading, then 2 minutes before the end of the game, you concede and you draw. That has been the trend for Red Arrows in the last few games, and it's a very, very worrying thing. It talks about, if you ask me, it's about endurance. Are these players able to endure 90 minutes of football? What is making them lose concentration towards the end of each game to allow opponents to actually equalize and get a point away from them? The opposite is also true for FC Musa. These are lads that are winning games in the last few minutes of each game. They've been very, very consistent with that particular setup. You will find that the whole game, they are playing, they are stable. They win matches in the last few minutes of each game. And Red Arrows is losing points in the last few minutes of the game. Will this trend continue tomorrow? The answers will be given at Nkrumah Stadium tomorrow in the afternoon as Red Arrows is hosting FC Musa. And for me, the consistency of the FC Musa lads in this particular season to find themselves where they are is not by fluke but by hard work, as confirmed by Lamek Banda, who was being interviewed yesterday at the pre-match interview that we had at Football House. at Absa House. It will be very, very interesting to see how Red Arrows will use their experience at the expense of the versatility of the young lads at FC Musa.
And before we get into other issues, let me just go through. Augustine.
I think if I might just add on, I think Red Arrows very, very worrying the way they have been conceding last minute goals. If you look at the games that they played this season, they've dropped 6 points from winning positions in the last 5 minutes. They drew at Sunset Stadium against Zanaco 1-1. They conceded in the 90th minute. They drew against GBFC at Imbuela Stadium, conceded in the 90th minute. They drew again in Chungola against Nchanga. They conceded in the 90th minute. So I think to me it's a lack of concentration towards the end of the game, and Red Arrows will need to improve on that if they are to win the Absa Cup. They are one team that was part of the Absa Cup last season. They went all the way to the final, got beat by Napsa Stars, 1-0 at Nkrumah Stadium. They're coming up against a highly fancied Musa side who are playing some good football. Kelvin Mwanza, skipper of the side, the youngest captain in the group. he will try and cause problems for them. And I do expect a very cracking match this afternoon, tomorrow at Koloma Stadium between Musa and Red Arrows. I believe the fans will be for Musa.
But your prediction, Augustine?
Prediction, I think the experience of Red Arrows, I think Red Arrows last season went all the way up to the final. They know what to do.
They were beaten by
Red Arrows win it by 2-1.
They were beaten by Division 1 team.
He's repeating what happened last year.
And this particular tournament, gents, to be very honest, I won't be very surprised if we get a shocker. One of these two teams will probably be in the finals. Trident and Musa. One of these two will be in the finals. And tomorrow's game against Red Arrows, I am seeing Red Arrows bowing out at their own home turf.
Okay, let's just make this simple. Give us your semi-finals team, 4 semi-final teams.
No, just one.
We want 4, so that when we come back next.
We analyze it.
Yes, we try.
No
Me, I'll pick my 4. I think Paul Dynamos will go into the semi-finals.
But you asked me and you answered the question.
Green Buffaloes will go into the semi-finals.
I'm with you on those.
Red Arrows will go into the semi-finals, and probably Trident. I'll go with this 4.
My 4: Musa, Trident, GBFC, and Power Dynamos.
Okay.
Those are your 4. So just a quick comment here from Ignatius Liwewe. Tostan Sarata is currently the best goalkeeper in the country. Hope you watched him in yesterday's game against Cape Town. We must not start with Patson Daka. He's off form. So that's some of the comments from Facebook. From Facebook. But due to time, we saw something that we were looking for, Augustine maybe and Uncle Rapson. Just a quick one. We saw the the disciplinary committee coming up with a verdict and judgment in terms of what Samuel Piri did, and it's something that he was given. He was handed a 4-month ban plus 20,000 fine.
These bans are too much, if you ask me. Too much. You can't have a player being suspended. Okay, I know 2 months. 2 of those months are suspended.
It's just 2 now.
Suspended sentence, and I'm glad the player showed remorse immediately after the incident. He acted out of probably a very, very high temper, and it's unlike him, and to give him a 4 months ban is a bit on the higher side if you look at his history towards discipline, and but it's a good deterrent. I don't tolerate any player who goes and harasses officials. That I can't. And I think he went overboard. He should have done that to his fellow players, but to go and do that to a match official, 4 months is good.
Augustine?
Yeah, I think if you look at the Football Association of Zambia, I think the disciplinary committee, their hands were tied. They just had to try and do what their rule book talks about, because everyone was trying to see what they are going to do with Salan Piri, because there was an incident of Alex Ngonga. So everyone was trying to see if there will be any favoritism or something. But I think they've just done what they were supposed to do. They've looked up at the clean record of Salan Piri and that reduced the ban from 4 to 2. And I think
it's 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months.
2 months suspended.
2 months suspended. Yeah. So I think if you look at what picture do these guys send to young boys who are aspiring to become footballers,
and
I think
one of the best things they've done to him is community work.
Yes.
At a school, at 2 schools of his choice.
That would be very, very good.
To go and mold the young ones, to teach them, to talk to them about life, how life should be.
Because these guys are role models, and they should know how to handle themselves. Yeah, so I think going forward, it's a good lesson to all the footballers out there.
Your closing remarks, Uncle Rapson?
Well, all roads lead to Koloma Stadium this morning, actually. I call it this morning because the first game is starting around just after midday.
So you have to be seated by 11.
You have to be comfortably seated by 11:45 so that you enjoy the game. And can we have all the fans trek to Koloma Stadium to just go and support the teams that are participating this afternoon? Probably participating is understatement, that are competing this afternoon. It's all about competition, and to our viewers who've been tuned in, to the callers, we appreciate your calls and everything else, and we look forward to giving you an analysis of what is going to happen this afternoon and tomorrow as well, as we get back to you. And to you, Jamila, like I said, you challenged me, and I'll keep this challenge, and probably I'll come and get that big cup. after this show.
Augustine.
I think a big thanks to the entire production team for making this possible. I think it's been a wonderful show. A big thanks to all our viewers out there for tuning in, and we always appreciate your support, your efforts, for all the callers and the comments on Facebook. We appreciate them, and would like to urge each and everyone out there to please check to Nkoloma Stadium and watch the only cup competition in Zambia. Let's support Bola Pazedi.
So this is where we come to the end of the show, and like my comrades have said, we thank you, the viewers, for always supporting us, and we do this for you. And all roads lead to Nkoloma Stadium, where we have a double header: 12:30 Green Buffaloes hosting Forest Rangers, and after that Power Dynamos hosting Mighty Mufulira Wanderers. These are some of the games. So if you've not yet purchased your ticket, you might as well just start off now to go and purchase your ticket, because I doubt if tickets will be sold on the gate, right?
Yeah, but there will be a few, I believe.
There will be. You know, normally ABSA will have a stand just outside the stadium where they promote their products. Probably they will be doing one or two.
So if for those who still want to catch up in terms of buying tickets, you can still trek to the stadium and be able to get your tickets. So I've been your host, Amos, aka Amore, and on behalf of my panel and Mrs. Mshota upstairs, not forgetting Pastors Victoria and Moses Chilura for always giving us this platform to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. See you next week, but stay glued for Amazing Gatamanda is coming on your screens with the weekly gospel show. I'm out. Bye-bye.